One very subtle mistake that can actually really break the flow of your video is eyeline mismatching. And this is something that I see happen all the time. Let's talk about a talking head video like this, for example. When we edit our videos, we're all using jump cuts. And in order to hide some of those jump cuts, we very cheekily crop in and crop out to hide those. But cropping in and out just isn't enough because you need to make sure that your eyes are aligned in both shots. Not only does this happen when you're cropping in and cropping out, this also often happens when you film standing like me and you become lazy and start slouching, and now all of a sudden I'm two different heights, and if I don't pay attention to eyeline matching, it's gonna look weird. Sorry about that. In order to fix this, we want to enable the guides in whatever video editing software that we're using and then place them on the eyes in shot 1. Then the key is to reposition that next clip so the eyes are aligned. Now, if you're shooting with multiple cameras, then I would really recommend to use this main angle as your leading angle and adjust all the other ones accordingly. Even if you've perfectly aligned the shots, your edit can still feel very stiff when you're cutting between the same shot every single time. Let's take a look at this montage. In this video, we're going to be bluntly honest, and this montage is starting to feel repetitive and quite boring. And the reason why it feels so repetitive is because we're using all the same shots or shot sizes. When you cut from one close-up shot to another close-up shot to another close-up shot, we get it. And it's boring. The key is to introduce a variety of shots. So instead of medium, 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 maybe start with a establishing shot, followed by a close-up shot. Now, it doesn't need to be in this order specifically, but you're gonna see that your edit and your montage is just going to be a lot more engaging and interesting to watch. But this isn't actually the only problem that we're having with this sequence, because did you notice that besides using the same shot size over and over again, it's also shot from the exact same angle every single time. Now this too gets so repetitive and so boring. So it's really, really important to not just introduce a variety of shot sizes, but also different camera angles. Think of POV shots, high angle shots, low angle shots. Just get creative with it. Now, if you have multiple cameras to shoot with, great, go ahead and use the cameras. If you don't, you can again get away with a sneaky crop in here and now to create this second camera angle. However, the biggest note that I want to give here is that you have to be intentional. A big dilemma that we as creators face on YouTube or on any social media platform is retention. And sometimes for retention, we gotta sacrifice a lot in order to keep it snappy and keep it flowing. What we need to do is we need to remove all the ums, all the breaths. We need to remove any filler words that we're using, and we end up with a very choppy edit. Showing those jump cuts or cropping in and out every time that we make such a cut is just, it's going to undo everything that we just talked about. For the sake of teaching, I gotta be transparent, and therefore I need to expose myself. So everything that you just watched, heavily edited. It might seem like I speak fluently, but trust me, the magic is in the editing. Now it might seem that I'm speaking fluently, but Now it might seem like I'm speaking fluently, but trust me, that's the magic of editing. Now the real question is though, why do you think you're not noticing those cuts? And I'd like this video to be interactive, so go down to the comment section and let me know why you think that is. The reason why you didn't notice these cuts is because I'm covering them up with something called B-roll. B-roll is just any visual that you can use to tell your story. Now, in a tutorial, this could be as simple as using a screen recording. If you're doing a product review, then this would be a product montage. Or if you're talking about cats, just show some cats. We don't use B-roll just to hide our cuts because it actually does a way more important thing, and why I highly encourage you to use B-roll. It helps us visualize the story we're telling. There is nothing more boring than seeing someone talk without seeing the thing that they're talking about. This is an instant attention and retention killer. Yes, this is going to take a lot more work, but it is completely going to change how your videos feel, and they're just going to be instantly like 10 times better, at least if you're not using B-roll right now. So next time that you're filming something, go ahead and grab a couple of extra shots to use as B-roll, Or if you were not filming, then you can just grab some B-roll from stock footage places. I'll put some links in the description. And those montages that we watched, I don't know, like a minute ago or something, we can use that as B-roll too. Now that I call a win-win. If we go back to that montage, actually, there is still one more problem with it. Yes, we've mixed up our shot sizes and our framing and our camera angles, so what else could be wrong? Let's take a look. Are you bored yet? Don't get me wrong, this video is already a lot better than the original cut that we have, but man, does this feel predictable. And the reason why this is predictable is because the rhythm stays the same. We made a cut at the same time every single time. And whether you notice this or not, you have probably picked up on this unconsciously. Especially when you're cutting a montage to the beat of a song, this is so tempting to do. Raise your hand if you've ever done that. Yep. Been there. So instead, try mixing that up. You want to break the pattern because it's going to be so much more interesting and so much more engaging. And this doesn't just go for montage as what we're looking at right now, but also if you're making story-driven videos, there's going to be scenes or there's going to be parts in the story that allow for slower cuts and a slower pace. And then you want to introduce more energy or more of a frantic feeling by cutting faster. For the next editing mistake, I dare you to open up your video project right now and take a look at your timeline. Does it look anything like this? Terrible, terrible mistake. And I've been there a million times too, so don't feel bad. Let's take a look at an example. This just isn't quite it, and that is because the hard cuts are making the video feel very choppy. Now, this is extremely annoying in vlogs, but also in talking head videos. And in this example specifically, we can very clearly hear a change in audio every time that we've made a hard cut. Now, to make this more natural and to make this flow better, instead of using hard cuts, we're using J and L cuts. Instead of doing a hard cut, let's introduce the audio a little bit earlier. Now, this is an example of a J cut because it is shaped like a J, and the L is the opposite. It's when the audio will still linger whilst we've already cut to another visual. You want to play around with the audio of each clip to just make the audio cuts more seamless. And if needed, you can use additional sound effect and ambient sounds to really tie together your edits. Again, such a small change makes a huge difference in how your video is going to feel, and it's going to be instantly more professional. So next time that you're editing your video, don't just look at the visuals, also listen to your video. Are you ready for another montage? I think we can all agree here that this just doesn't really work. But why isn't it working? Because we're using different shot sizes, different angles. We've worked on our rhythm. We're using J and L cuts to make the cut flow better. Why does it still feel awkward? The answer is actually quite simple, because we didn't cut on motion. This is really important to create a seamless sequence. Now let's look at how to do that. We need to make sure that we're actually cutting to the motion. And the best way to do that is to cut during the motion or during the action. This is a technique that you can apply to most kind of videos, whether it's a vlog or a B-roll sequence or it is a talking head video. So next time that you're editing your video, make sure that you look out for motion. When you're cutting to motion, there is still one more important detail that you need to pay close attention to. If you miss this, this will absolutely 100% completely break the flow of your video and just break people's brains when they're watching it. I realize that this is quite an obvious example because I want you to really understand what we're looking for, but even if this isn't as obvious, don't feel bad, because you might not be able to pinpoint what's going on, but you might be able to feel what's going on. And at the end of the day, that is most important. When we're editing, we want people to feel something. And in this case, what I've just showed you feels completely disengaging and disoriented, and that is the opposite of what we want. Speaking of opposite, why are we going in different directions? Seriously. And also, why is a door opened in one clip and then closed in the other? As we're watching this, our brain expects, and in this case, predictability is good because it expects us to go one way and suddenly we're going the other way. It makes no sense. So when we don't go in the same direction, we now have created a disconnect, even if you cannot figure out why. Now, I hope in this case it was clear as day, but trust me when I say this happens a lot. So when you're cutting to action, take into consideration the direction of the movement. And I guess this counts as editing mistake number 8, but you want to make sure that there is continuation in all of your shots. Obviously, fixing these mistakes and creating these seamless cuts will definitely be easier if you're using the right footage. Because if your footage is working against you, for example, bad composition, or it's the same repetitive shots, it's going to be really hard to create an interesting video. And these filmmaking mistakes can ruin your edit before you even started editing, which just is a bummer. So we will break down how to get the right shots in this video right here. And as I always say, you. I sound like a sim when I do that. Oh no.